everybody. It's the Black Powder Beginner, and welcome to another episode of Percussion Discussions, Range Day 6. And right there, I'm shooting my Thompson Center 50 caliber New Englander. Um, I had a little issue with my microphone, so it's going to be another voiceover session. But I'm at the range, Carter's Country, and I'm I am at this point getting ready to load. But first and foremost, this will be the first time that I've ever shot any type of rifle. Um, I have never even held a rifle. Well, I held a rifle one time with Mr. Keith. He let me hold one of his Hawkins, or a couple of his Hawkins. And so, with the exception of that, this will be the first time that I've ever held a rifle for an extended period, worked with a rifle of any kind. So I wanted to make sure that I had cleaned and oiled this New Englander before I came to the range. So the first thing I did was slid a patch down, a dry patch, and kind of twisted it a little bit just to make sure that there was not any oil blocking the flash channel so that I can get a clean shot. Um, I take it down one time, turn the patch over, and take it down a second time, kind of twisting it a little bit just to make sure that I get all the way down to the bottom of the barrel. And as you can see, it's clean. It's clean. It's got a little bit of rust, which I never realized how rusty a rifle barrel can get when you don't really use it, because I've actually had that New Englander for a little bit over a month. And like I said, this will be the first time that I actually shoot it. And so, with that being said, right now I'm kind of working with it a little bit. Um, I put a cap on first, or what did I do here? Yeah, I put a cap on, and I'm just trying to clear the flash hole to make sure that I get a clean shot, that it actually shoots. Because what I didn't realize about cap lock rifles, the flash hole is very small. You have you have a nipple, just like the one of my revolvers. You have a nipple. You have the cap on top of the nipple, and then when you fire the cap, it is a small hole that the flames go through. So one of the guys at the range was telling me, pretty cool rifle. So right now at this point, I am poking a hole because I have made paper cartridges for the rifle. So I'm poking a hole in the bottom of the paper cartridge and putting a little bit of powder down the barrel, and I tap it right there just to make sure that it gets where it needs to be. Um, that is a 495 round ball with 55 grains of 3F Swiss. So this will be my very first shot. And what I did was I wanted to test and see what would be better, 490 round balls with 50 grains of Swiss, or 495 with 55 grains of 3F Swiss. So I tried to do it a little bit better than what I have done with the revolvers, and that I labeled um, the paper cartridges that I made 11 shots each. and I got it set up to where I'm shooting the 495s first, even though you'll see later that I didn't separate them like I needed to, so I just kind of grabbed because I wanted to see how fast I can load. So loading my first shot, it is a slow process for me from the beginning, but you kind of see my form and in my first shot, and I was aiming that shot there. I was aiming at the target, the center of the target, and you can see it was off to the left. So I go immediately to load up my second shot, and it's another 495. So once again, I poke a hole in the bottom with my porcupine quill that I wear in my hat. Um, and that was kind of the reason why I started wearing the porcupine quill because I eventually knew that I would use it at some point for something. So once again, same process, and I'm trying to be more uniform in how I load, and that's not only just the rifle, but also with the revolvers to kind of give myself a routine so that it's easier for me. So first shot, and already it's kind of a little bit hard to load, but I attributed that to myself. What I'm realizing as I watch the video after I make the video is that I was kind of leaning on that rod a little hard. I'm surprised it didn't break. So get rid of the spent cap, and I got my inline capper for these. And once again, it's not something that I normally use, but it's easy to use. It's really for a rifle. So get ready for the second shot, and it's the recoil wasn't bad. The recoil wasn't bad, but once again, I'm aiming, and that's I should have held the target so you could see where it was actually hitting a little bit better, but that one was a little bit high and to the right. So when I'm figuring out, and what is, uh, I think that's a 495 as well, because like I said, all of them were in my cartridge box that I have on my belt, and I grabbed a couple of 490s when I should have just been using 495s. So just to kind of separate them out, and I believe that's a 490 right there because of how quick it. That was the difference. That was a big difference. Was that the boom the 490? Of course, it's a smaller diameter than the 495, so it went down the barrel pretty easily. I could take my thumb and push it at least about an inch down into the barrel before I use the ball starter. So that one, that looks like to me a 490. And I was just trying to see would um which one would shoot better for me. Me being a novice at this type of stuff, I just wanted to see what would be better because I shoot very heavy powder loads. So I wanted to make sure that kind of making it because I wanted to actually hit the target. There's so many range days where I'm not really hitting the target. So this one is 490, and as you can see there, shot a little bit low. So what I figured out is the grouping is not going to be tight because of one thing or another. There's so many variables to this. So what I was trying to do was to get a consistent grouping of shots, which I don't necessarily do, and I think that's attributed to me trying not thinking too hard a little bit, I guess. But that there, that's a 495. That's a 495. So now I want, if you watch closely, it becomes now this is third. This is the third shot, and it's becoming harder to load. And I'm putting a lot of force because I want to make sure that it's sitting in. So what I'm doing right there is I was told by the old timer at the range, the black powder guy, that when you bounce the rod, if it bounces, then it's seated and that it's in the barrel properly. If it's not, if it doesn't bounce, then you might want to put a little bit more pressure on the load and the ball so that you have a good seal and you have good pressure, which means a good shot, overall good shot. So that's what I was testing by letting the rod bounce. But it's a lot to it. It's fun, but it's a lot to it. And it that 495 once again I'm consistently aiming. And it's only later that I figure out that I can kind of move the shot a little bit better. But I'm consistently aiming at the red dot. And so now that I look at it, I contribute my lack of grouping to not being able, and you see right there, it's shooting to the left. The rifle is shooting to the left with the 495, but it's on straight target, which means for me, it means that it's shooting at the proper level, but it's just over to the left. So what are you supposed to do? Well, move your aim off the red dot and just slightly to the left, and you'd hit the red dot. But it didn't occur to me at that point. So once again, after that, I cleaned the barrel um, and back at it again. So once again, 495 round ball, and like I said, it didn't occur to me to move my aim over to the left to try to hit center. But I tend to kind of not think about it until afterwards. In the moment, I'm just trying to get my shots on paper. So you won't see the target up close on these. I'm just kind of showing you the what I'm seeing as I move around, do what I do. But it's consistently left. High, low, consistently left. At the end of the day on the black target, I shot 15 shots, four of which four of which were 4.90 round balls. And out of the 15 shots that I shot at the black target, I hit 11 on paper. So 11 out of 15, four of which were 4.90, the rest were 4.95. which was 11 shots. And I believe it's either, see now how I'm kind of flexing the rod. It's harder. Yeah, that was super hard to get down in there. And yeah, yeah. So actually, I didn't clean. It was a I hadn't cleaned yet. This was a break, but I was thinking right here, like, yeah, I'm gonna have to clean after this shot because I was sitting the butt of the rifle on my foot and doing all of this. And when I moved it, I sat it on the ground and kind of slapped that down in there. But so it got consistently hard to load, which of course I guess is common, but you don't really make the realization until afterwards. So, and as you can see, here's the shots here. Once again, left. That one was high center. And I honestly think now that I'm looking at it and I'm looking to see, I'm like, where'd that hit? And right, then I noticed, like, God dang it, it hit off the black and just high of the black. So I'm continuing to push on because I really wanted to see how many shots I can get off before it was just impossible for me to load the rifle. And what I realized the variables that change where the projectile is flying is how dirty the barrel is, um, of course your aim, and also how well you pack the load. How well you pack the load, um, it's there's a considerable amount of change to where your projectile is firing when you don't pack the load like you necessarily should. So it's a lot to it. It's definitely a lot to it. And as I learn more and more, I realize that I enjoy the level of precision that you have to have. It's not just point and shoot. It's a lot of things that you have to consider. And so with this, and there's a bit of recoil. There's also a bit of recoil in the shot, and I'm trying not to flinch. I have a bad habit of flinching before I fire. Um, and I also have a bad habit. I'm just going to admit it right here that I tend to blink when I fire. So those are things that I'm really trying not to do. So the cleaning, there's a lot of procedural things that you have to do when it comes to procedure and routine, and then there's a lot of things personally that you have to do as a black powder shooter that you wouldn't normally have to do when it comes to, of course, a modern firearm. Oh, yeah, I leaned on that one a little bit too much. I see the rod kind of bending. Like I said, then that's something else. That's unconscious. That's me unconsciously kind of leaning into it to try to get it down with as much, consistent force. Because I've seen a lot of videos where they say, it's not a good thing for you to, slap it down like that, slap the load down into the barrel like that. But for me, not cleaning consistently because I'm trying to see, you know, how many shots I can get off before I clean, it you can kind of tell. So at the end of the day, it ended up being 5 or 6 shots. I didn't show my breaks in between where I clean quite a bit, but you'll see the target here, and you'll see that the shots are consistently left, up and down, consistently left, and there I got closer. I got closer to the target, but that was I cleaned in between that because as you can see, there's nobody in the background. There was at least two ceasefires called, and I did clean, and I'm just going to say that in the course of cleaning, I did get a couple patches stuck down in the barrel, which happens. It happens a little bit more often than I would like, but it does happen, and it's normal. That's something else that you tend to have to go through. And so 5 or 6 shots, five, four shots. I'll say 4 shots I took before I cleaned. So this would be shot number 7 we're coming up to. And so it's been cleaned and I've had this would be the 4th shot or 3rd shot after I have cleaned the barrel. So second shot after I cleaned the barrel was slightly high, but on target. So, and I believe that's how I'm looking at through the looking at the looking at the sights. So I tried to line up the sights, but then I slowly started to just use the front sight. So, and one other thing is that you see I'm shaking. That's why I took a break right there. That's why I stopped. My back was kind of getting tender. It had been a couple hours already, or an hour and some change, and I hadn't really sat down, and that's high, quite high. But because I was trying to reacquire the target, like I said, my back was starting to get tender. My shoulder was starting to get a little tender, and that's another 495. But you don't realize, like when I'm shooting the revolvers, I don't have any hand or arm fatigue. It's mostly just from being on my feet for so long because usually range days extend for 3 hours. I usually spend 3 hours at the range. So, and I'm on my feet for 90% or 95% of that time. So my back starts to get a little tender. The difference with this is that not only does my back start to get a little tender, but my arm, my shoulder, they start to get a little tender as well. And so during ceasefires, I'm kind of shaking my arm out, but I didn't want to stop because I wanted just to feel it. I wanted to feel it. Shooting multiple shots, and Mr. Keith, you tell me if the butt of the rifle is supposed to sit right there. But and there you go, another shot on. It's on paper, and that's really all I can ask for at this point. But I'm kind of I'm standing like that because I'm reaching in my cartridge box, and so that's when I start to do the differentiating between 490 and 495. As you can see, I look at the paper cartridge and okay, that's a 495. But the other two that I pulled out were 490s. So I sat those on the bench. And once again, same process. But completing my previous sentence. I'm standing like that because my back is starting to get tender. So I look. So here we are. Here we are. Here I am. 495. I've poked a hole in the bottom of the paper cartridge, and I use the paper cartridge because it's easier. It's just easier to me. And look, oh, bending that rod, and bam. And oh, yeah, I'm putting a little bit of force on that. I'm trying to make sure it's the load is packed properly, but yeah, that's a lot of force. Jeez. Like I said, I'm looking at this for the first time and really like looking at it, um, and looking at myself. That's one of the reasons why I do this. It's just to see what I'm doing because when you're doing it in real time, a lot of things I do unconsciously, just by instinct. So I'm trying to reacquire the target, and I don't know where that hit. Jeez. I might extend out. Well, I actually did extend out the look at the target because I realized that it's too fast. You don't really get a chance to really look and see where I hit. But at 20 yards, I think I'm doing rather well for first time shooter with a cap lock rifle. So once again, I'm doing the same routine and I'm doing my best to continue the same routine because it seems to be as I go forward, it was a lot easier to load as far as not having to think about it so much. It just started to become second nature. So right now I'm putting the cap on, which is that's relatively easy as well. And quite honestly, shooting a black powder percussion rifle of this kind, this Thompson Center, uh, is rather easy, to be honest. Yeah. See, I feel like I flinched on that one. You can see I'm shaking. I'm shaking, and it's a lot of different factors to that. The anticipation of the shot, um, the weather. It was hot. Shoulder starting to hurt some, starting to ache a little bit, and my back was definitely hurting some. And now it's becoming harder to load, and I'm slapping that down with stupid force. That is what? Dang, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of force. Well, so and that's what I was trying not to do was shake and flinch. But like I said, I was on my feet for 2 hours and 30 minutes, which I know is not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but when you're shooting and you get that recoil, so I'm trying to relax. Um, you see my shots are all over the place at this point. They're all over the place, but in the grand scheme of things, they're all towards the left. And it's it definitely is something that you have to get used to. But I wanted to keep grinding about. So 495, 55 grains of 3F Swiss, and the recoil wasn't that bad. I would I shudder to think how much recoil you'll get from 70 grains or 80 grains of 3F Swiss when you get because you get a little bit of recoil with the 55, but it's easier to control the shot. Yeah, yeah. And I just broke my palm saver. Yeah, because I was slapping it down with so much force. Jeez. So yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. I really don't. It made me mad because I was like, what did I do? I was just like, dang it, what did I do wrong? Well, when you're putting your bull in a china shop strength on top of a piece of wood, along with gravity, you break stuff. So there you go. So now I'm thoroughly disgusted because I'm like, dang, I gotta buy another one, and I still got like 8 or 9 or 10 shots to go, and I'm gonna tear my hand up, even though it wasn't that bad. But I hate breaking my stuff. You just hate breaking your stuff. So now I'm kind of irritated. I don't know if you can tell in the body language, but I'm like, and I'm sweating. It's like humid. The humidity level it was ridiculous. So I'm sweating and I'm irritated, and I'm gonna take this shot right here. Dang it! So front blade sight, and I don't know where that ended up, but I'm sure to the left because all of them went to the left, damn near. And so and I stopped I stopped attempting to adjust, and it doesn't occur till later, and you'll see it a little bit. What I'm saying. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing, and I'm mumbling to myself. I'm like thinking, and I was good. I'm trying to say something, but my mic is not working. The mic on the camera's not working at all. But see, I sit down at 490 and 495 round ball with 55 grains, and I'm gonna eventually need to clean. Yeah, 495. Yeah, I just said it, 495. So, but I keep pushing along because I really wanted to get a good roll going. And I don't remember what I was saying right there, but I'm sure I'm muttering something to myself about some nonsense. Try to teach somebody something while I break my stuff. Yeah, so and it's becoming harder to load. And in fact, if you actually look to the bottom right of the screen, you'll see that little bit that bowl with the green stuff. One of the old timers told me that if you take some simple green and you put it in a bowl and you put patches in the bowl with the simple green, the patches will soak it up, and you can just carry those with you. And I said, you know what? That's a good idea. So this time I decided to do that. Going to the range, I decided to do that instead of try to spray some stuff down there and down the barrel and mess stuff up. I could just have a neat patch coated or absorbed with some simple green that I use to clean, and I use that to clean down the barrel. Just one, just one patch, go down, then take care of it from there. But yeah, and once again, you see me shaking. Yeah, and I flinched on that one. I think I closed my eyes on that one too. But it's a consistently left shot, and then we'll move on to the next target. So here we are. It's getting kind of later in the day, and that's a 490 round ball with 50 grains of powder. So same process, and that's what you have to learn, or I have to learn, is that it's the same process every single time. Poke a hole in the bottom of the paper cartridge. Let a little powder down the barrel. Put the paper cartridge into the barrel. Ball starter, um, ramrod, and then cap, and then shoot. So, and once again, like I said, it was ridiculously humid, so I'm sweating. My hands are sweating. So it it's actually fun. It's actually fun, to kind of, oh yeah, 490 green target. That one hit left of the target, almost off the paper. It did contact the paper, but only barely. Now this is after I cleaned for the third time. Yeah, about the third time. So that was the first shot after I cleaned the barrel, ran a couple patches down, took the nipple out, cleared out the nipple, um, worked to clear the flash channel, and so that was the first shot after I did all of that, which took a few minutes. Wasn't bad, but the camera's still rolling, and I haven't stopped. Rapid succession. The 490 goes down easy, but now as I'm doing it, it's starting to occur to me. As I aimed directly for dead center. I put the barrel blade sight on dead center like I always do, but there's going to be a difference. Just continue to watch here. You'll see what the difference is. So you look, and top left, right next to the first shot, the second shot. If you really look at it, you can see where the first shot is off the paper directly to your left. The second shot is right next to it. It's because I knew that it was going left, and I started to move my aiming point. Now, if you just keep a good eye out. And like I said, when you're shooting outside in Texas, Southeast Texas, you're gonna deal with a lot of humidity, And look at me, two shots, and it's getting once again hard to load. But I think that's because of how I was, I don't have my um, palm saver because I broke it. So I was trying to kind of, load it without having to slap the top of the rod and put a hole in my hand. So I believe that's not because of the barrel. I think that was just because of me. But okay, so you see it here, top left of the target, and now I'm bringing it a little bit to the right. So I'm starting to at towards the end now. Now we're at hour three of me being at the range. We're at hour three. After 3 hours of shooting, it finally occurs to me, hey, you're aiming dead center. You're putting the blade barrel sight on dead center, but the projectiles, the round balls, are going to the left. Why not move the blade barrel sight to the right a little bit and see where it goes? After 3 hours, it occurred to me that that first shot was high. Oh yeah, I'm struggling right here to get that down in there. After three shots, but it goes down, and the following was pretty rough. But that's only because instead of me cleaning every three shots, skip that. I'm gonna go every five. And at this point, I shot all seven shots that I had left without cleaning. But like I was saying, it's back to okay, so just take the barrel blade sight and move it to the right a little bit. So when you see the target, top left, barely on the paper, then a little bit to the right, on the paper, still at the top. So then by the time we get to this fourth shot, I'm aiming at the square. If you at the bottom right of the target, that's where I'm aiming, and there you go, bottom right. But I end up the top of the target, the top of the circle, but still high. So for these last few shots, um, oh, somebody asked me a question or something. Oh, they were asking if it was okay to do ceasefire, and I told them one more time. Now, as you can see right there, inside the circles, but still a little high. And that was me aiming at the square at the bottom right, but slightly off the paper, slightly off the paper for that shot. So that's shot five. So we have a ceasefire. Um, I don't clean. I don't clean. I want to keep the rifle exactly the way it is because I'm trying to zero in, but I'm trying my best to not flinch and shake. I'm starting to get a little tired. Like I said, my shoulder, my back, um, but my resolve is even stronger than the aching that I feel in my body, I wanted to see if I can actually control it like I needed to control the shots. So after the ceasefire, fire the shot, and that goes to the bottom. Right next to the square, you'll see a hole at the bottom of the paper off out of the circle. And that's because now I'm aiming to the right, and but the blade sight is completely off the paper. And I mean a good at when I'm looking at it, a good inch or so off the paper to the right. Now that the shot before that hit inside the circle but slightly high, that one the the barrel sight was at the bottom of the square at the right on the right. So I figured I needed to take it off the paper just a little to end up on the inside the circle. But of course, with a ceasefire, you kind of lose your momentum. So final shot right here, and I'm trying to reacquire what I'm learning and reacquire the target. I know that I need to shoot bottom right, but the question is how far to the bottom? Because now it's lining up in the center, but it's too high or it's too low. So, like I said, final shot here, and I try to zero it in, and now it's too far right. Now it's too far right. And I wish I had made some more paper. I don't bring any loose powder or anything like that. But I wish I would have made more paper cartridges to shoot. But I'll learn from these mistakes that I've made here, and we'll see you once again for Range Day 7. But until then, thanks for watching.